Somewhere in Washington, there's a list. Some people call it a hit list, some call it regime change, some call it national security. But for the people on it, it only ever meant one thing: done. Since World War II, the United States has directly or indirectly removed more than 50 governments around the world. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's declassified, it's documented, it's history. Sometimes armies were sent, sometimes CIA agents, sometimes a drone, and sometimes just a phone call was enough. Today, we're covering 16 of the biggest, with the facts, the numbers, and the real reasons that never made it into the official story. The leaders who didn't survive, we saved them for last, because those stories are the biggest ones. Let's start with the one the CIA calls its first successful foreign coup. Mohammad Mosaddegh was Iran's democratically elected prime minister, educated, respected, wildly popular. In 1951, he made a decision that sealed his fate. He nationalized Iran's oil industry, which had been fully controlled by the British Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. London and Washington couldn't let that stand. So the CIA and British intelligence MI6 launched Operation Ajax. They paid thugs to riot in Tehran's streets, bribed military officers, and planted fake stories in newspapers. Mosaddegh was removed, imprisoned for 3 years, then placed under house arrest for the rest of his life. He died in that same house in 1967. The Shah returned to power under American protection. The cost? Iranian democracy died. Resentment boiled for 26 years. And in 1979, the revolution came, one the whole world is still dealing with today. 1 year after Iran, same story, different continent. President Jacobo Árbenz wanted to give unused plantation land back to poor farmers. The land belonged to a U.S. corporation, the United Fruit Company. The CIA director at the time, a former lawyer for that same company. The CIA launched Operation PB Success, trained rebels, dropped weapons, ran psychological warfare on the radio. By 1954, Árbenz was gone, driven into exile, drifting from country to country until he died in Mexico City in 1971. The military dictatorship that followed killed over 200,000 Guatemalan civilians over the next 4 decades. That's not a footnote. That's a genocide. This might be the darkest story in the whole list. Democratically elected prime minister, a young electric leader who watched his country's independence happen with his own eyes. That dream lasted exactly 67 days. CIA Director Alan Dulles wrote to President Eisenhower that Lumumba needed to be, quote, eliminated, because he leaned toward the Soviet Union and because Congo's uranium, diamonds, and copper were too valuable to risk losing. The CIA worked with Belgium to enable a military coup. Lumumba was captured, tortured, and in January 1961, shot by a firing squad. To make sure nothing remained, his body was dissolved in acid. In 2024, Belgium formally apologized. America has never said a word. This one is different, because this time, America took out its own guy. Diem was Washington's hand-picked leader in South Vietnam, the anti-communist wall they'd been building since 1955. But by 1963, he was a liability. Buddhist monks were setting themselves on fire in the streets, and every news camera in the world was watching. Kennedy's team got word Diem was secretly negotiating with the North. In August 1963, the CIA gave South Vietnamese generals a quiet green light. November 1st, coup. Diem was promised safe passage. The next day, he was found dead inside an armored vehicle, shot and stabbed. Kennedy was reportedly shocked, even though his own administration gave the signal. Kennedy himself was dead 20 days later. The Vietnam War went on for 12 more years, and removing Diem changed nothing except making everything worse. On September 11, 1973, military jets bombed the presidential palace in Santiago. Tanks rolled through the streets. Inside La Moneda, Salvador Allende, the world's first democratically elected Marxist president, made his last stand. Official version, suicide. Many historians still dispute it. What's not in dispute, the CIA was at the center of all of it. Allende had won Chile's election legally and democratically in September 1970. His agenda: nationalize copper mines, redistribute land, build a democratic socialist state. Nixon and Kissinger called it unacceptable. The CIA spent $10 million collapsing Chile's economy from the inside, funding strikes, creating artificial shortages, buying off military officers. General Pinochet took power. America recognized his government within hours. Over the next 17 years, over 3,000 people were killed or disappeared. Over 40,000 were tortured. Henry Kissinger later said, "I don't see why we need to stand by and watch a country go communist due to the irresponsibility of its own people." This might be the strangest story in American military history. It involves a drug dealer, the Pope's building, and heavy metal music. Manuel Noriega was Panama's military dictator, but before that, he was a CIA asset, paid $100,000 a year to help run U.S. operations across Latin America. Washington knew exactly what he was, and Washington looked away. By the late 1980s, Noriega had become a problem. He was running cocaine into America, murdering political opponents, and getting too dangerous. A Florida grand jury indicted him on drug trafficking in 1988. Noriega's response? He declared war on the United States. That was a mistake. December 20th, 1989. Operation Just Cause. 27,000 American troops. Largest U.S. military action since Vietnam. Panama's army collapsed in days. Noriega ran. He found one place America couldn't touch him: the Vatican's diplomatic mission in Panama City. You can't storm the Pope's house, so U.S. forces surrounded the building with giant speakers and blasted heavy metal 24 hours a day. On January 3, 1990, Noriega surrendered. He served 40 years in prison across 3 countries. The man the CIA built, destroyed by the CIA. The only leader on this list that America removed twice, Jean-Bertrand Aristide, was Haiti's first democratically elected president. In 1991, a US-backed military coup pushed him out. President Clinton brought him back in 1994, but with strings attached, economic policy would follow Washington's rules. Then, 2004, another coup. Aristide claims U.S. forces physically put him on a plane and dropped him in Central Africa. Washington denied it. The question remains: Haiti is today the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. That's not a coincidence. The first fire of the Arab Spring burned in Tunisia. Ben Ali had been Tunisia's dictator for 23 years. Washington called him a moderate ally until millions of Tunisians hit the streets. Within days, Washington pulled its support. Ben Ali fled to Saudi Arabia, died in exile in 2019. The lesson: America's friendship lasts exactly as long as your power does. Egypt. Hosni Mubarak had ruled Egypt for 30 years. He received $1.3 billion in U.S. military aid annually, kept the peace with Israel, kept the Suez Canal open, and in return, got complete freedom to do whatever he wanted to his own people. When Tahrir Square filled, the Obama administration went silent for days. When it became clear Mubarak was done, Washington told him to go. He resigned in February 2011. Egypt got a brief flash of democracy. Then, the military came back, and it's still running the country today. Let's clear something up, because a lot of people get this wrong. America did not directly kill Gaddafi. In 2011, NATO launched air operations under UN Resolution 1973. American, British, and French jets destroyed Libyan military assets. CIA officers were on the ground advising rebels, but Muammar Gaddafi was captured and killed by Libyan rebel fighters on October 20, 2011, near his hometown of Sirte. What happened after? Libya today has 2 rival governments. A country that once had Africa's highest per capita income now has open slave auctions. Now the stories with no way back. Ernesto Che Guevara, the face of the Cuban Revolution, trying to spread that fire across all of Latin America. For Washington, an intolerable threat. The CIA trained Bolivian troops, tracked his movements, and in October 1967, cornered him in Bolivia's jungle. CIA agent Felix Rodriguez confirmed the capture. The next morning, execution order. October 9, 1967, 39 years old. Today, his face is on the best-selling t-shirt in the world. The man America killed became a global icon. May 2nd, 2011, Abbottabad, Pakistan. 1:30 in the morning. Operation Neptune Spear. 2 Black Hawk helicopters, 79 Navy SEALs. The entire operation, 40 minutes. Osama bin Laden, the founder of Al-Qaeda, the architect of 9/11, was shot on the 3rd floor. His body was flown out and buried at sea, so no grave could become a shrine. Pakistan was not told in advance. That tension is still a thorn in U.S.-Pakistan relations to this day. Anwar al-Awlaki was an American citizen. This American-born cleric spread al-Qaeda propaganda and became a declared enemy of the U.S. The Obama administration decided to target him without any trial, any court, any due process. September 30th, 2011, killed by a U.S. drone strike in Yemen. Can a government legally kill its own citizens without a trial? America still doesn't have a clean answer to that question. January 3rd, 2020, Baghdad International Airport. Just after midnight, Iran's Quds Force commander, General Qasem Soleimani, had just stepped off a plane, invited to Iraq by the Iraqi parliament on a diplomatic mission. A U.S. MQ-9 Reaper drone struck on direct orders from President Trump. Iran's response was immediate. Ballistic missiles rained down on American bases across Iraq. Over 110 U.S. troops suffered traumatic brain injuries, which officials first tried to call headaches. America called Soleimani a terrorist. Iran called him a national hero. That one drone strike brought the world to the edge of a major war. December 13th, 2003, the banks of the Tigris River near Tikrit. Operation Red Dawn. 600 U.S. soldiers surrounded 2 small mud houses. Nothing. Then a soldier spotted freshly disturbed dirt. They dug and found a styrofoam slab covering a narrow hole barely big enough for one person. Inside, Saddam Hussein, 24-year dictator, disheveled beard, defeated eyes, $750,000 in cash, 2 AK-47s. Completely alone. The official justification? Weapons of mass destruction, which were never found. The real reasons: Iraq's oil, Saddam's move to sell oil in euros instead of dollars, and America's post-9/11 plan to redraw the entire Middle East. The price: 4,500 American soldiers, 150,000 plus Iraqi civilians, $2 trillion, and a power vacuum that gave birth to ISIS. An Iraqi court convicted Saddam of crimes against humanity. He was executed on December 30th, 2006. The hole where they found him? Today, it's a tourist attraction. March 1st, 2026. In the early morning hours of February 28th, American and Israeli aircraft launched a coordinated large-scale strike on Tehran. Israeli jets dropped more than 30 bombs on the Supreme Leader's compound. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, 35-year Supreme Leader of Iran, 86 years old, was killed, along with Iran's defense minister, the IRGC Commander, the National Security Council Secretary, and members of his own family. President Trump posted on Truth Social, Khamenei was one of the most evil people in the history of the world. Iran launched missiles at American bases across the region. 40 days of national mourning were declared, and here a circle closes. In 1953, the CIA ended Iranian democracy. That death created the 1979 revolution. That revolution created Khamenei as supreme leader, and in 2026, 73 years later, the same America came back to decide Iran's fate one more time. The circle closed. But the story isn't over. 16 leaders, 5 continents, 7 decades. The words were always different: freedom, democracy, national security, the war on terror. But underneath the words, if you look closely enough, it was always the same math. Oil, minerals, geography, power. This video doesn't take sides. Some of these leaders were genuinely brutal. Some were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And some were just standing between America and what America wanted. But history asks a bigger question than any of that. Does any single power have the right to decide the fate of other nations? We still don't have an answer to that. And until we do, this story doesn't end.